emphasize that the Atlas of Atlantis has nothing to do with the more famous mythological Atlas who holds up the sky. The latter, very enduring, is a Titan, the son of Iapetus, and either Clymene or Asia. The former is the eldest son of Poseidon and Cleito. Critias's story tells of a people who inhabit a wondrous paradise island, but who degenerate into imperialist aggressors. Their expansion brings them into conflict with the warriors of antediluvian Athens, which in many ways is an embodiment of Plato's ideal state, and which heroically and single-handedly repels the mighty Atlantean forces before a cataclysmic natural disaster, cataclysmos in Greek, flood, destroys both Atlantis and Athens. Plato often used and invented myths to provoke thought and debate, and if the great philosopher was seeking to do this with his Atlantis story, he succeeded in the most spectacular fashion. It has been misinterpreted and abused from antiquity through to the medieval, Renaissance, and more modern times. The impulse to try to locate the island has proved to be a strong one, as has the drive to use the story to further the ideas and activities of people from a wide range of cultures and eras for diverse motives. These various responses to Plato's writings often say as much, if not more, about the beliefs and preoccupations of the people who are responding to Plato as they do about Atlantis itself, adding an extra layer of interest to the study of the texts. And an amazing tale it is. It has wondrous descriptions of extraordinary things. It has drama, mystery, and pathos, and it is full of challenging moral issues. But equally amazing is the fact that the story comes as a complete surprise to the people that Critias first tells it to, Socrates included. None of them have ever heard this tale before. In fact, neither had anyone else. This is the first time in the entire Greek mythological tradition that any mention has been made of the Atlantis island. Atlantis does not appear in Homer's Iliad or Odyssey. Committed to writing in the 8th century BC after a long tradition of oral transmission prior to that, not in Hesiod circa 700 BC, whose theogony, dealing with the origins of the gods, works and days, and the fragmentary catalogue of women, contain important mythical material. Not in the epic-style Homeric hymns, 7th-6th centuries BC, which honour some of the major Greek deities, including key players in the Atlantis story such as Poseidon, Athena, Zeus, and Hephaestus, and relate important stories from their mythologies. Not in Pindar, 518 to 438 BC, a lyric poet whose work is replete with mythological allusions. Not in Herodotus, circa 484 to 425 BC, the father of history, who recorded a great many mythological tales on his travels, and whose itinerary might have led us to expect information about Atlantis. Not in Aeschylus, 525 to 456 BC, Sophocles, 496 to 406 BC, or Euripides, 485 to 406 BC, the big three Athenian tragic dramatists who drew heavily on the mythical tradition and often reworked it for sensational theatrical effect. Not in Aristophanes, circa 445 to 385 BC, the Athenian comic playwright who often parodied or subverted mythological stories in his plays. Not in the surviving fragments or references to historical writers such as Hecataeus of Miletus, Acusaulus of Argos, Pherecydes of Athens, Hellanicus of Lesbos, or Antiochus of Syracuse, who probably wrote the first history of the Greeks in the West. Not in any other author, and not in vase painting, sculpture, or any of the visual arts. There is nothing whatsoever before Plato introduces it, first with a small tease in the Timaeus, and then more fully in the Critias. It is hardly surprising, then, that Critias's audience are desperate to hear all about it. One of the reasons that Critias's listeners are so excited is because the Greek mythology they grew up with is very well endowed with marvellous mythical lands and islands. A new one that no other Greek has ever heard of is obviously quite astonishing. There are places beyond this world: Olympus, the abode of the gods; Hades, the subterranean underworld where the ordinary dead reside, whose entrance, according to Homer, was in the far west beyond the ocean; Elysium, sometimes referred to as the White Isle, a region within Hades where a few blessed mortals lived a happy existence; Tartarus, where famous evil wrongdoers were punished, located the same distance underneath the earth is from the sky, as well as others that belong in the more physical areas of the mythical world like Ogygia, Sherry,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.